08690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 25th of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Labour government wants to introduce a legal right not to be bothered so that staff can ignore bosses' emails and texts and calls outside of normal office hours, including holidays. It's all part of Labour's election pledge to give everybody a right to switch off for the first time ever. Mutaz, do you ever turn your phone off?
I don't. If you want to work in a high-functioning job that pays well in the end, you have to keep your phone off. The workplace is competitive. If you work longer hours, you're more likely to get a promotion.
It depends what job you do. We work in news, yes. The three of us. News goes on all the time. It would be ridiculous to think that we could ever leave our emails or a phone call alone, because we don't know what's about to happen next. But say you're working in a clerical job or a manual job, if it's absolutely 9 to 5 and your job is over by then, there's no reason why you should be contacted by your boss except in an emergency.
Is that because people nowadays that they want to they don't want to live to work, they want to work to live?
People are more relaxed about work. I'm able to come in here dressed like this. But when it comes to legislation, you've got to be careful because it leads to ridiculous situations. The Euros, when England was playing with Spain, one of the Spanish footballers was 17 years old. I think the Spanish FA had to pay a fine because in Germany, a 17-year-old shouldn't work after 8 p.m. or something like that.
With me now is the Head of Employment at Pickering Solicitors, Joanna Robson. Joanna, thanks for joining us. Is it a generational issue?
Yes, I think there is a generational issue. I think younger people, they generally want to make a really good impression. So sometimes you find the younger workforce are the ones that actually want to really put their mark out there and they really want to work longer hours. And that's going to, it's going to be difficult for younger people to, switch off.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, I'm Will Hollis with your top stories at 11 o'clock. The Home Secretary has committed to a rapid review of extremism on her returns to the Commons today. Yvette Cooper updated Parliament on the government's response to riots which erupted across the UK following the killing of 3 children in Southport. The Home Secretary called rioters racist thugs. It comes as the wife of a Conservative councillor pleads guilty to publishing written material to stir up racial hatred. 41-year-old childminder Lucy Connolly called for mass deportations and attacks on asylum seeker hotels on social media. She later apologised for acting on what she called false and malicious information. Lucy is the wife of councillor Raymond Connolly. In Israel, the country's Prime Minister has vowed he will make Hamas pay for the killing of 6 hostages in Gaza. Speaking at a press conference here in Jerusalem, Benjamin Netanyahu said that Hamas will pay a heavy price. It comes amidst a general strike as tens of thousands of Israelis pressure Prime Minister Netanyahu into accepting a Gaza ceasefire deal. Back in the Commons, the government has announced it is to suspend the sale of some weapons to Israel. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said 30 out of 350 arms export licences are to end because they are a clear risk and could be used as a violation of humanitarian laws. Former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn is to unite pro-Gaza MPs here in the UK under a new banner in the House of Commons. The MP for Islington North forms the Independent Alliance with 4 others, creating a parliamentary group with the same number of MPs as Reform. To the Tory leadership contest now. James Cleverly's launched his leadership bid today, vowing to bring back the Rwanda plan. The Shadow Home Secretary also highlighted the need for the UK to remake the argument for capitalism. Meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch launched her campaign too, calling for change in the Conservative Party. The Shadow Communities Secretary said her party has to focus on renewal. And Transport for London has revealed it is dealing with an ongoing cybersecurity incident. TfL has not given exact details, but says no customer data has been compromised. A transgender athlete has said it is legitimate for biological females to question her place in the Games. Valentina Petrillo failed to qualify for the T12 400-metre final at the Paralympics, falling short of a medal in Paris. The Italian had previously won 11 national titles in the men's category. And finally for you tonight, the filming of the final ever episode of Gavin and Stacey has begun, says the BBC. The British comedy, which became a national favourite, will return to TV screens one last time this Christmas. That's all for now. Time for headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Tuesday's newspapers with three top comedians. I'm Simon Evans. On my panel tonight, one hails from the land of fried Mars bars, the other swears by raw meat, Leo Kearse and Lewis Schaefer.
Yeah.
The battle of the diets.
It's actually a delicious way to eat Mars bars. What you should never do. I went on a diet once and started steaming my Mars bars. Terrible.
You don't have to have them heated at all. You do know that, right?
Well, if you say so.
Steaming them sounds a bit Gwyneth Paltrow. Go on.
How could it not be delicious? It's a candy bar wrapped in breading. Of course it's going to be delicious. It's pure sugar, but it's not good for you. I mean, you managed to hold your looks for...
I did the Edinburgh Fringe this year, and I have a ritual now. At the end of every festival, I go for the full, from the one on Nicholson Street.
Right,
yeah, with the salt and sauce and the big spicy sausage and everything.
I have the same ritual, but I call it dinner time.
Yeah. Well, you're neck and neck for health at the moment. Anyway, let's take a look at the front pages. We have the Daily Mail to kick us off. Labour are running scared over winter fuel backlash, apparently. Telegraph have petrol cars rationed to meet eco targets. And I think that's Kemi Badenoch there laying out her leadership claims. Guardian, UK breaks with US to suspend 30 arms export licences to Israel. A couple of film stars on their front page. Mirror, Kia versus Oasis. There is no consensus so far on what the lead story is. iNews, UK restricts sale... iNews. UK restricts sale of weapons to Israel due to clear risk of breaking international law. That's more of a paragraph than a headline. And finally, the Daily Star, world's a bit too dodgy to go driving. Well, that's been the case for a while. Those were your front pages. So let's have a closer look at those front pages. We'll start with Tuesday's Guardian, Leo.
So the UK has suspended 30 arms export licences to Israel after a 2-month review that obviously started under the Tories. So this is conducted by the Foreign Office. And the UK has broken with the Biden administration on a significant part of their tightly coordinated policy towards Israel by announcing it's suspending some arms export licences to Israel because of a clear risk that the arms may be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law, which, I don't know, it seems unfair because I feel like Israel is having to fight a very awkward war against, an asymmetric war against terrorists who are hiding behind civilians. So it's very difficult to actually defend their country without, harming anybody.
It's like trying to pick ice cream out of a sandy beach, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it's, the damage is already done.
I wouldn't use sand in the analogy because I don't want to go to jail in Keir Starmer's Britain. But
also, I would say, there's quite a lot of people sort of hinting as much. it's a domestic policy as much as an international policy, isn't it? They're trying to keep, a large section of their vote on side, basically.
Well, that's true. This is one of the those questions because in a future thing that we're covering, what's his name? Jeremy Starmer.
Corbyn.
Jeremy Corbyn. Sorry.
Yeah, they're not all called Starmer. Yeah.
No,
he's not like a big family.
That was a joke.
Sorry.
And you couldn't tell it was a joke. But he's taken off people. He's taking people to the Muslims. There are 4 other Muslims going off. So he has to do something. It's only it's less than 10% of all of these licenses, and it doesn't involve anything that important. But the truth is, it's from the Foreign Office. And even when I was in America, I used to hear about how Islamophilic the Foreign Office was back in the day, and if they were involved in this...
Well, it wasn't seen as Islam so much then. It was Arabist was the word, but they were definitely Arabist. In fact, there's a famous scene from Yes Minister or Yes Prime Minister that gets shared where Sir Humphrey, do you remember the sitcom?
Yes.
Where Sir Humphrey is explaining to Jim Hacker, the MP, that the Foreign Office... Yeah. Are strongly Arabist in their sympathies. And it's interesting because there's very little evidence of that anymore these days.
Yeah, well, I used to work for the Foreign Office, and they're certainly right on board with all the diversity, equity and inclusion nonsense. And it was, I wish I was still there at the time when you were picking pronouns and stuff. It would have been fun. We got to think in 25 years' time, and we can already see the tilt, Britain being pulled leftward. But in 25 years' time, with the growing Muslim population, we're going to be arming Hamas instead.
Yes. Well, I mean...
We're going to be Hamas.
Moving to the Daily Mail, Lewis. Have they got anything more cheerful?
Yes, well, it's good news. It's all good news coming out of this stuff today. Labour now are running scared over winter fuel backlash. Starmer's MPs panic over cash blow for 10 million old age pensioners, which, of course, I am. I've been here for 25 years already. I've been here... not as long, whatever it is. I've been here a long time.
Are you genuinely entitled to a subsidy now?
I am.
My God.
I am.
And
because I actually worked and I paid some taxes. It's way more than I deserve.
This is what annoys people, because it's like a blanket benefit, it's a blanket subsidy.
We're going to need a blanket.
There's a lot of so-called pensioners who are actually fat cats.
But you're totally right, because once you give money to people, you can't take it away. No. And that's happening all across in America, too, and here.
It's sticky. That's what they used to say about wages, sticky. They only go in one direction. They ratchet, And
look at how great you look.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is not meat, this is just shaving.
Well, maybe that's all you need to do.
So, I mean, it's interesting. Is it interesting? It's certainly a bold move. He's come out so hard against quite a few demographics, hasn't he, Starmer? I would assumed so that he can time it better than Rishi Sunak did, basically. Sunak blundered terribly, didn't he? Yeah. Horrific kind of measures taken economically, and then he could have even just waited for the summer to go. He basically called an election while everyone was still fuming.
Yeah, and it was just a head-off reform, which didn't even work
at all.
But I mean, it's great to see. While I'm enjoying seeing Labour, dragged over the coals, which obviously the pensioners won't be able to afford, but 10 million OEPs who I'm sure wished they'd actually bother getting out and voting for the Tories now. But there is a point that our system is being geared towards a lot of the wealth in the country is held by older people. I know it's not all older people, but it does make sense to sort of means test some of these things.
I think means testing for heating allowance is perfectly reasonable, and indeed for everything, really.
Use it. And you know what I would do? I'd use a thermometer.
Yeah. You got two choices. What's on the front of the Telegraph, Leo?
So petrol cars are going to be rationed to meet eco targets, or they already are being rationed. So car makers are rationing sales of petrol and hybrid vehicles in Britain to avoid hefty net zero fines, according to one of the country's biggest dealership chains. This is Robert Forrester, who's the chief executive of Vertu Motors. He said manufacturers are delaying deliveries of cars until next year amid fears they will otherwise breach quotas set for them by the government. So if you order a car today, you won't get it until February. And so basically everybody wants to buy a petrol or a hybrid car. But under these quotas, at least 22% of cars sold by manufacturers have to be electric from this year. And if they don't hit these quotas, they get the manufacturers get charged or fined £15,000 for each petrol car that exceeds their quotas. There's obviously no profit in doing that. They lose money on selling them.
It's mad. And I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. Living in Brighton, I know it's just, n=1, but it's impossible to charge them. Yeah. Nobody's got driveways. Nobody's even allowed to build driveways. There's like one charger per, I don't know, 500 houses. I've seen queues building up in the like double parked, you know,
Right, wow.
people just queuing for chargers.
Well,
it's the infrastructure is not there.
Is not there, and people they like gas cars, and they're brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, as cars go, but there's a huge anti-car world out there where people hate cars, and this is a left-wing commie thing.
If it was all ready to go, if it was a smooth transition, then I'd be up for it. They're quieter, it's cleaner, you know, it will bring interesting real estate in London, Kennington Road, some beautiful old Victorian, early Victorian terraces that have been filthy houses of multiple occupancy because of the traffic may become desirable again. There's all sorts of little, eventually, if possible.
No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen? First of all, these electric cars, people don't want electric cars because then they can turn them off through the internet.
Yeah.
They have more control.
Yeah, right.
Over
Social
us.
credits. Well, let's have a very quick look at the Mirror.
The Mirror, Kia versus Oasis. Starmer proposes clampdown on Gallagher's dynamic pricing. This is Oasis, which I wasn't really involved with until last year. I don't even know why.
Oh, right.
Last year I started watching.
Well, it was 94.
James Hargreave and watching these YouTube videos about how great and they're amazing. And I actually
there were 5 great years. There were 10 awful years. They lumbered on like punch-drunk dinosaurs, unwilling to accept that they were over.
Exactly.
And this is what comebacks always do. You go immediately back to the glory years. And you forget that there were 10 years of everyone just going, oh my God.
Because the truth was, they only had 3 years of good times.
Noel wrote most of the songs on the first 2 albums in a single long weekend, I think. You know, like Dylan used to. You know, a couple of big hoots and.
But they were brilliant songs, and he's pretending that they were all nothing. I ran into him, and I actually saw him. And
they were great, but it's no business of the Prime Minister, is it, to get involved in ticket sales, unless a law has been broken.
Well, dynamic pricing is brilliant because it says, however, who wants to pay more money?
I agree. Otherwise, it goes to the touts, doesn't it? This is, you know, the ridiculous fact is, touts make more money now out of selling tickets than you know. And after the, I mean, I bought some tickets of a company called Viagogo once because I didn't understand how it worked, and they are essentially legal touts. They were, you know, 4 times the cover price, and the thing hadn't sold out. I didn't realise. I just thought this was the listed price. They buy the, you know, they do the Google search.
Yeah, the government doesn't need to get involved in, you know, free market decisions, voluntary decisions between people. The government, it's like the electric car thing. Why is the government getting involved and telling people, no, you can't buy that, no, you've got to buy this?
Because they're commies. That's why they are.
I'm very relieved to hear that was the word you were
what Cressida says is this country doesn't like people making money.
Yeah.
We need to get back to Adam Smith. That's the fact. That's the front pages done. Back shortly with the first fistful of innards. We have the latest in the martyrdom of the Facebook one and the actual rise of an actual far right in Germany. Oh dear. We'll see you very shortly.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
One local cricket team was made up entirely of one family. The Jollens.
The Newmarket midweek seconds played Thurlow and Old Mill Greenian seconds, captained by, here we go, James Jolland. He played alongside family members Henry, Freddie, George, Jack, Archie, Ryan, Brandon and Daniel. Even if slightly controversial, one of the umpires was a Jolland to Stephen the umpire.
Yes, well, the Jolland family mostly live in Wickenbrook in Suffolk and have played for 4 years for Dullingham Village team before it merged with Newmarket. So that's the entire backstory. We're delighted to be joined now by Captain James Jolland and teammate and brother Nick Jolland. Really good to see you both this morning. This is incredible. How did you get the entire family involved in cricket?
Well, we started the club about 3 years ago, and it was more friends and family. But then it had this opportunity of this week to get everyone involved because everyone was back and they all played cricket, various levels, and the youngest being 12, George, and we're all available. So we thought 1 week we'd do the whole team.
You booted the friends out for 1 week only?
Yeah, they were very good about it. They come and watched. They supported us.
How did the other team feel about having an umpire with related ties?
Well, the captain of the Thurlow is one of our friends. We do know him, so he was fine with it, and there was no controversial decisions at all.
I think it's a fantastic strategy.
No, yeah.
You could plant somebody.
That's the way
in a position of authority. It's a great idea.
Oh, look, here's the scorecard we can see on the screen with all of your names on there. Some fantastic English names on there. How does it get between the family members? Is it very, very competitive between you all?
As you get older, you work on that, don't you? And you keep that competitiveness out of it. And it's really for to play with your sons. It's a great thing to do.
Yeah, it's a lovely
We've
thing
all
to
got
do.
sons in it. That's why we do it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Tuesday's newspapers. Simon Evans here with Leo Kearse and Lewis Schaefer. So The Guardian leads us off, Leo, with Jeremy Corbyn, as Lewis mentioned earlier, putting the insect into sectarian politics, as it becomes clear what independent really means.
So Jeremy Corbyn is to form an alliance with 4 independent pro-Gaza MPs. So they were all elected on pro-Gaza platforms, and Jeremy Corbyn obviously bangs on about it a lot as well. I wish he cared as much about Britain as he does about anywhere in the Middle East. Yeah, like Iran, and anywhere that's got a horrible authoritarian Islamist regime. He absolutely loves. But the MPs have come together. The grouping includes Shaukat Adam, Ayub Khan, Adnan Hussein, and Iqbal Mohammed. A bit of a theme there. And they say we were elected by our constituents to provide hope in a parliament of despair. Already, this government has scrapped the winter fuel allowance for around 10 million pensioners, voted to keep the two-child benefits cap, and ignored calls to end arms sales to Israel. Well, they haven't completely, as we saw today. But yeah, this is. I think this is going to be more. As a group, they've got the same number of MPs as Reform, and more than the Green Party. And
although considerably fewer votes than Reform, who of course like pitifully underrepresented, like something like 1 million votes per MP. Or something.
I'm not sure if the pro-Gaza vote would have that much fewer. To be honest, there's a lot of pro-Gaza MPs or Islamist MPs came very close to unseating, like Jess Phillips. I think there were other ones. Was Wes Streeting not far off? Only a few hundred off.
Phillips is having to walk a tightrope, isn't she, in heels at the moment? It's kind of funny, but it's not really a healthy democracy, is it? We are drifting towards something. Well, it is like old-fashioned sectarianism. Isn't it?
I don't think we're drifting. I think things are drifting towards us. Yeah, they're coming on the water towards this thing. And there's 6% of the population are Muslims. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. And they vote as a bloc, and they care about a lot of them care about certain
to be fair, they probably wouldn't have voted as a bloc like a year ago. It was, October the 7th did change that dramatically, right? I think
because
that's probably
they didn't have a reason to.
Yeah.
Now they see that power is within their grasp, I guess. It's a horrible
But it's
situation.
interesting how, and I don't know what your perspective is on this, but for most of my adult lifetime, but I've become more aware of it through Twitter and stuff, there's a very sizable contingent in America who think that Israel leads them into foreign wars.
Well, because that's something else
the reality,
entirely.
right?
Yeah, it's
it's not to do with the Islam. It's not to do with Islam. It's simply to do with AIPAC and the Israel lobby in Washington, which is a different calculation.
Right. People hate the Jews. I hate the Jews. And if you could admit that,
you should tell people that you are a Jew before people write it.
Oh, yeah. I'm a Jew. I'm not a Jew.
Next up, we have Lucy Connolly pleading guilty. Looks likely to have the Facebook thrown at her, Lewis. This is in the Mirror.
The Facebook, yeah. Lucy Connolly, Tory councillor's wife, pleads guilty to stirring up racial hatred during the riots. And this is a great story. It's a good story because basically she got a little carried away online, as we all do with the privacy of our own homes. That's going to be my excuse. It's been my excuse, whatever. And she was put in front of Nottingham Crown Court. Her husband is a councillor, a Tory councillor. It doesn't matter. They threw the book at her. And
do you think it doesn't matter? Or do you think it matters more? I mean, my sense is that she's going to be more of an example.
You know what? These people are so vicious that
Which people?
Jeremy Starmer and whatever he is. You know, Keir Corbyn. They want to crush this. I mean, even if they don't believe it, they believe in crushing it. This is Team World, which is.
I mean, her comment was pretty. I want to say extreme, inflammatory, or whatever. But I guess the principle still stands, right? She wasn't standing in front of the hotel going, "There it is, go and burn it down."
Yeah, she was. I mean, in fairness, she was basically inciting violence. She said. I mean, it was a post on the day when 3 girls were stabbed to death in Southport. So emotions were obviously high. But she said, mass deportation now, set fire to all the effing hotels full of the B words for all I care. If that makes me racist, so be it. Now, that's obviously you shouldn't be telling people to set fire to hotels. However, she's a childminder. Nobody's looking at her Facebook and being like, oh, she said this, we better go and do it. No. Whereas somebody like Hope Not Hate, who are government advisors who have a lot of credibility, they posted fake, what they even admitted and what the police said was fake news, but left it up, telling people that far-right thugs were throwing acid in Muslim women's faces. And that I've seen videos of Muslim men incited to violence over that, and they have credibility, so they should be hauled in front of the courts and given a much longer sentence than childminders and people who have just had a bottle of wine and nobody listens
Well, it is, and they haven't sentenced her yet, but they're saying it's going to be a long custodial sentence. But we've already seen like 2 or 3 years handed out here or there, so I guess that's going to be what it's looking like.
And you know what? Somebody should be screaming. This is not my country. My kids live here. Maybe it is my country. But you know what it is? It's somebody should be screaming about this. Because there is a war going on. Which side are you on? And that's the thing. You can't say that it's just, it's something. It's just this poor... It's this lady...
It's a very strong principle. I agree with you. Single German compound noun now for the panic-stricken post-election horse trading after far-right make unexpected gains. I think there's a word for that.
That's like German. A cryptic crossword clue. I've got no idea.
It's like
What on earth? What's that? Rubik's Cube?
The Germans, they have these wonderful long compound nouns that mean, like it's a single word, and it means, I bet there is a word for like a panic-stricken meeting in a smoke-filled, smoke-filled room anymore.
All right, Sandy talks.
Yeah. Your next word is. Anyway, yes, the AfD.
Yeah, partnering with Germany's far-left pro-Putin party could keep the AfD out. So this is basically they've had regional elections in Germany, and the far-right AfD won the vote in Thuringia, securing 1/3 of ballots, and came second in Saxony on 31%, just behind the centre-right Christian Democrats. But there's a cordon sanitaire around the AfD, even when they're getting, the biggest chunk of the vote.
There definitely should be a German word for that. Yeah, disgraceful. They have used a French word for cordon sanitaire. I was fuming.
So, there's a cordon sanitaire around them. So the other parties will form alliances to keep the AfD out of power. And they say it's to preserve democracy. Somehow disenfranchising, the party that got the most votes is preserving democracy.
To be fair, and I don't know the full history of it, but the continental parties have had this for some time, right? There is a very explicit intent to make it only... Unlike Britain, because they all, obviously got involved in the war and to a greater degree.
Well, and also because they got proportional representation.
Yeah, so it's quite formalised, isn't it? It's not just like a kind of nod and a wink. They really is an actual cordon sanitaire. It's almost like a physical boundary.
Yeah, but it's just pushing people further towards the AfD. And also, it's like in France, the parties that they do these deals with and this horse trading with, like the far-left party that they're going to do a deal with, sound worse than the AfD. They're pro-Putin. They want to end weapons supplies to Ukraine. And they're a populist group as well, and a lot of the far left have a lot of the same sentiments as the far right.
Well, eventually, people will see what's going on, and they're going to vote for this party, and they're going to screw the other parties. They will go to it's in America. They just lie, and so maybe this is better.
They've done that. Well, they possibly have done that here as well. So, basically, in the German regional elections, if you get more than 33% of the vote, then you have actual power, and they can't form veto power. They can't. The cordon sanitaire doesn't hold. But they basically revised the results and said, "Oh, there's a software. We discovered a software error, which has never been discovered before." And we don't know how it happened.
So you haven't quite got veto power.
So you haven't quite got veto power.
Do you know what it is? This is what I realized. The left lie because they think they think what they're doing is for the greater good. So what's that saying? The Machiavellian saying, which is you do something bad because the good is what? Well,
C.S. Lewis has the famous quote that you see almost daily now about the tyranny of the well-intentioned being the worst kind because their conscience won't interfere with them.
Well, this is different. This is saying that we know we're doing something wrong, but it'll be okay because it's going to have a benefit.
Ends justify means.
Ends justify the means.
Eggs and omelettes. Lewis, the Tory leadership rivals are split over a cap. Is it a sorting hat, perhaps?
Yeah, you know, and I've been a bit extreme on this show, so maybe I should calm down a bit. I mean, it's just kidding. I'm just kidding, people. I don't care. I don't care that much.
Go on.
Anyway, Tory leadership candidates split over migration cap. And this is Kemi Badenoch and James Cleverly, and they're talking both of them are talking a lot of rubbish because there's this, what I call it a war. I'm not saying you should take up arms, but we're in a battle between them and, let's say, you. And if you want to fight them in a nice way, you've got to make a stand, and that's why. It does seem
they have been off message, haven't they? They have so many barn doors they could be hitting. There can be so many open goals.
There's only one barn door, which is we're fighting for Britain, we're fighting for England, we're fighting for the family.
Kemi Badenoch recently, she made like an entire video trying to reheat the battle with David Tennant. You know, like the actor who said some mean stuff about her attitude to trans girls.
It's probably a good time for her. She wants to go back in time. That's why the Tories are totally... All women do. All men do. That's why the Tories are irrelevant, because if they weren't Tories, they would have already stopped.
That is the end of part 2 anyway. Coming up, we have gender reassignment. That's surging, but Robert Jenrick is determined not to get distracted. Will he? Won't he? We'll see in a couple of minutes.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We've seen some big thunderstorms through the day today. Still a few rumbling on at the moment, but they are going to fade overnight. Tomorrow, a mix of sunshine and showers, and it is steadily turning fresher from the west. Quite warm and humid, though, in places at the moment. Our air is coming up from the south. This low pressure generating the heavy thundery showers, steadily clearing from northeast Scotland and then the Northern Isles. But some storms rumbling on well into this evening over parts of the Midlands, Northern England and Wales. They should start to ease through the early hours. Still quite warm and humid and murky over central and eastern parts, but turning fresher and cooler further north and west. Temperatures in parts of Scotland well down into single figures. Generally a fine and a sunny start across Scotland tomorrow as well. Certainly a much brighter, drier day across the northeast. But in western Scotland, a line of cloud and rain is creeping back in. That's extending down into Northern Ireland, so a pretty glum start to proceedings tomorrow here. Quite a lot of mist and low clouds still across parts of England and Wales as well, and still a few showers here, still keeping going through the morning, so you may wake up to a bit of a wet start here. And as we go through the day, we could see some further heavy showers developing over parts of East Anglia and maybe the far southeast of England. Still hit and miss, but some heavy downpours possible, particularly in the early afternoon. Much of northern England, Wales, southwest England, though, drier and brighter compared to today. And we'll still have some outbreaks of rain coming into the far northwest. Turning cooler and fresher, we could still get into the 20s across East Anglia and the southeast. And certainly a cooler, fresher start across eastern areas for Wednesday morning. Again, many places seeing plenty of sunny spells, but we will see more showers developing as we go through the day, particularly for Wales and England, Northern Ireland. Not too many, though, across Scotland. And temperatures much fresher feel by Wednesday, high teens for most.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive?
Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us. Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way.
Might be cold in this studio.
That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9 only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners for the second half and the fourth. Leo, back to The Guardian. They are reporting that the Vogue US Weird tag is floating across the Atlantic and attaching itself to our Conservatives.
Yeah, that's right. So voters are beginning to think Conservatives are weird, research suggests. Although this is in The Guardian, which is obviously...
Research suggests. Call them weird.
Yes, this is written by some, 39-stone, green-haired, non-binary, somebody with a bone through their nose, and they're saying, "Oh, the Conservatives."
Man, he looks a bit weird, doesn't he?
He's got no tattoos.
But this is the thing, the left have started to use this weird sort of playground insult. It's been used very effectively in America by Kamala against Trump and against J.D. Vance, his running mate. So they say they're weird, they're icky, and it's this sort of, it's almost like a signal to other, it's like school bullying, but like girls, more high school bullying, mean girls type
It is
thing.
exactly, but you're absolutely right, because I have a 20-year-old daughter now. I remember 2 or 3 years ago when she's sixth form, and they never did this, but I knew that if I had come in and kind of tried to hang around or talk to them, do you know what I mean? Pretty soon you'd get all you have to do is come in, keep your head down, look at the floor, make your tea, leave,
and then hand her your business card.
But you do, exactly. But there is that thing, isn't there? What it is, it's J.D. Vance is slightly weird, and I don't know what it is, but there is this purchase on that, definitely.
He doesn't have very big eyes.
No, it's kind of, you're right, it is. I am aware of that. He has got that kind, I do think, is that what I look like? But the other thing they pick on is they try and reflect back the fact that the right want to critique their moral standards, their behaviour, their genders, and all of that business. So they go, "You're weird. Why are you so interested in what I get up to in the bedroom?"
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like,
why are you questioning us transitioning children?
Yeah.
Oh, are you weird?
Why
Just let us maim this child.
Yeah, just let us tell stories to children while we're dressed as
No, I think
drag queens.
You made the right point. The right point is that the right think of these people as being weird looking.
Yeah, and they just batted it back.
And they just batted it back. And they said, it doesn't really mean anything.
No.
Basically.
I don't think it's going to stick to the Tories, though. Maybe generic. That's
I think they are.
Henry's not weird.
They are.
Lewis, number of people applying to change gender nationwide has tripled from a tiny number to a very, very low number.
Yeah, well, this is good news. I guess, I don't know. It was a tiny number. About 10 years ago, it was about 300, and now it's like 1,400 people. Yeah. So it's quite a...
It's hard to say. That is still, to me, small in terms, in a nation of maybe 70 million people now. I don't know. We've lost count, haven't we? But we can probably assume most of these are not the ones that have come across on boats to get transitioned. But
that's small. It's saying 1,400 people have cut.
And this is This is applying for the certificate. This will include people who are perfectly intact. I think, right? This is
no, because they have to prove that they've been like a woman, and I think it's.
But that doesn't involve doing any surgery or anything.
That just means coming out to get the milk in your nightie.
but the question is, how do you get the certificate? Is there a government thing? No, there's some woman up there who looks you up and down.
It's a vibe. It's just a vibe. You don't have to have your knackers cut off. I do not think so, do you?
Not at all. And this is the thing. They've dropped the cost of getting the certificate from £140 to £5. You should put the cost up. If you're really committed to having a new gender or whatever, then you won't mind paying £500. We can give that money to, I don't know, the Tory party.
They have a Just Giving whatever, a GoFundMe, don't they, anyway, to pay for whatever they need.
Yeah, because they can't get jobs.
And the other side of this thing, which is rarely discussed, is the puberty blocker thing.
Yeah.
And people don't think of what the puberty blocker is. It's a drug. And these people are massive drugs. They're basically working for the drug companies.
Yeah.
It costs
And also,
I'm with RFK Jr. on this. He's going to be the best thing to happen to America. We need an RFK Jr. over here. I don't know who that would be for us.
Louis Schaefer. I am.
Tony Benson.
Yeah.
Leo, Bobby Jenrick is eager not to disappear down the rabbit hole that we have and that the SNP have, according to the Telegraph.
So protecting single-sex spaces is not the top priority for most voters, says Robert Jenrick. So he's running for the Tory leadership at the moment, and he said he's as concerned as the next person about how the UK is approaching sensitive issues such as trans rights. Probably not if the next person is Louis Schaefer.
Yeah.
But he says this is not what 90% of the public are thinking about, and he says he doesn't want the Conservative Party to be a one-issue party or to just go down a rabbit hole of culture wars. And I think it's fine to, talk about, obviously the economy and things like that are the big picture, but if you don't deal with these issues, eventually they will spiral. Well, they're already spiralling. We've seen some ridiculous things.
They did bring down the SNP, essentially, didn't they? And they continue to plague it. You're right, you've got to be absolutely clear on it, and then it's fine, then it goes away. But just sort of going, let's not get distracted by cultural war issues. 99% of women don't have a penis. That kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, whoa, back up. If you don't want to have a culture war, then state clearly what your position is and then move on. Don't just kind of go, well, it's not
because at this time, there is this war, which I've been saying for like years now. There's a war. You're on one team and you're on the other team. Unfortunately, you can't sit in... There's no Venn diagrams in the war that we're in. There's only these two silos, and one silo says it's wrong.
And this is a vote winner for the Tories, I'm convinced. This is not something on which Labour have won.
Yeah.
They've established themselves.
And there'll be an event like Millie Dowler. Nobody cared about phone hacking until the Millie Dowler events. There'll be an event like that draws attention onto this.
There will. Lewis, Guardian have news from Sweden that doesn't involve grenades and armed gangs, which is nice.
I know. Is that hard to believe? Because you think of Sweden as a lovely, lovely place. Not anymore. No screens, probably in most places in Sweden. Anyway, no screens before age 2, Swedish Health Authority tells parents. And this is the Swedish Health Authority, and they're saying you shouldn't use screens.
Isn't that absurdly young? I would have thought... Like unnewsworthy, like it should be 10 at least, surely, shouldn't it?
No,
because they're talking about televisions as well.
Oh, TV screens.
So you're not even allowed to stick frozen.
Not touch screens.
No, it's not about allowed. It's a suggestion. It's Sweden.
Right.
It's a suggestion. So I think this is good news. You shouldn't put a TV screen.
We watched a movie called Midsummer a couple of nights ago. Me and the kids. I say kids, like they're all old enough. Yeah. Have you seen it? It's like about Swedes. It's like a folk horror. It's like The Wicker Man, but in Sweden.
Is that What's the one with...
They don't have screens. They have maypoles and dancing, and then somebody gets gutted and strung up like a chicken.
That's the one where there's another Earth and it's about to hit the Earth and...
it's not that one, no. That is Melancholia.
Yes.
Lars von Trier. That's a slightly different one.
Terrible film. But this is, it's interesting that screens have been identified as causing so much harm in children. But I think also what causes harm is if you're with your kid and you're staring at a screen, and then there's a blank face thing, so the kid doesn't learn like emotional cues and all this sort of stuff.
Gets the cues off the screen instead.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree with you on that. I think it's fine to leave your kid like with a babysitter, a screen, like when you can't be permanently paying attention to the child. It's like, you know what I mean? But when you are, you should be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's what I think.
This is the same country that said about COVID lockdowns.
Sweden. Oh, yeah. No, they're good. Yeah, they're sound. Daily Mail now, Leo. It sounds like getting off infant school is getting easier these days.
So 60 children as young as 4 years old are sent home from school every day for racism, according to this study.
These children?
So, almost 60 children a day. Last year, almost 12,000 children were sent home from school for alleged racist behaviour. This is up 25% on 2022. And Joe Studholme, obviously the left, have come out and said, this proves that children are racist and, there's such a problem with white supremacist Britain. Joe Studholme, who's a self-appointed parenting expert, says children pick up racist views from their parents. And Daniel Kebede from the National Education Union said these figures should be a wake-up call. But when you actually look at the figures, they should be a wake-up call for us over-policing and being oversensitive to racist comments. So a child said that his friend had brown skin and curly hair. That's racist. He said
there was
home.
an even worse one than that. There's the chocolate one.
Yes, there's another kid, and a child under 11, so obviously, you know, a young kid, used the word chocolate when describing a classmate's skin colour.
He said when asked to describe.
Yeah, when asked to describe.
I mean, how more benign can you get?
It's like the laser beam trap.
It's like my favourite chocolate. It's like that colour. It's like literally my favourite thing.
Yeah, and another one. A 5-year-old girl was deemed racist after she made comments about a classmate's different hair.
Yeah.
Different hair, and that's racist. I mean, this is ridiculous. These teachers should be taken out in ceremonial.
I mean, I was subjected to worse racism than that when I was like 5 years of age, just for being Welsh. I mean, literally, Evans Pevens.
I was attacked for being Jewish at the yeshiva that I went to. An old joke, don't make it.
But it is crazy, absolutely right. And as one of the teachers says, they said there's a black headmaster who refused to be named, but he said, this is the way you have created the bad incentives, because people will need to log this stuff, because otherwise they need to cover their backs, because if it escalates and somebody said, but didn't he say that? And you go, oh, I didn't write that down. Then you're in trouble. It gets logged and then...
It's very similar. I was reading something about East Germany, and this is what's happening in East Germany, where the people are fed up with being told, you know, or they're being told what they can say in public.
Lives of others.
Yes.
So, Lewis, we'll squeeze this one in before the break. It sounds like Harrods is becoming short for harassment odds.
Yeah, well, this is kind of interesting. This is Harrods staff told to intervene if shoppers harass women. This is the same thing, like what you said. It's the same thing where they're making Harris department store. This is the big thing down there in Knightsbridge, I guess. Said that there was a 9-year-old girl who was kidnapped, and they don't want that to happen again. So they're telling everybody, and they're telling everybody.
And it was outside the store anyway, but near enough, kind of in the shadow of the awnings or something. She wasn't like snatched inside the store.
And everybody, and I never heard about this, so it's hard to believe that it happened because. But this is what's happening. It's women are victims. But they're still strong.
Well, I'm interested to know if they do intervene. I mean, you've got 15 seconds to give an opinion on that, Leo.
Well, I know somebody who worked in Harrods, in sales at Harrods, very attractive woman, and somebody spat in her face because, you know, sometimes people come from different cultures where you're allowed to spit in shop assistants' face.
It's like a tip.
Yeah.
So that's the end of part
Jeremy
3.
Corbyn's new party.
That's the end of part 3. In the final section, fights in pubs, Paralympic cheating. Some of them are on drugs. I mean, that's awkward. We'll get the details next.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
With record temperatures expected this week, how do zoos keep their cooler creatures cold? Well, at Yorkshire Wildlife Park, the polar bears are enjoying a vegetable ice block.
Polar bears, they do have quite a variety of different temperatures that they naturally do find. Once they're moving off these polar ice caps, they are in the likes of down in the areas of Canada, Hudson Bay. Naturally, they were finding polar bears in 35-degree temperatures year upon year. So they are very much used to warm temperatures and heat waves as such. What you'll tend to find is they'll go for a good swim and then go for a snooze in the shade thereafter.
Not wanting to miss out, the sea lions are treated to a huge fish lolly.
In the hot weather, it's really important to give them ice because these guys, they don't drink salt water. These pools are actually saltwater pools. They actually drink fresh water. They've got 2 freshwater pools in their house, but again, being able to provide that in their outside enclosure is also really important. So offering them ice with their fish is not only enriching, but it's actually beneficial to their welfare as well.
Other animals like the lemurs will be basking in the sun, but also cooling down with frozen sweet potato.
So we've got 3 different species of lemur here. They come in all different shapes, colours, sizes, but they are native to Madagascar. Madagascar can get quite hot, understandably, so throughout the cold months here in Yorkshire, we do give them a nice heated house all year round, but especially making sure it's nice and warm in the winter for them. And it does mean that in the hot spells as well that we're able to keep our eyes on them and try and give them things that make them a bit more comfortable with that incoming hot weather as well.
The frozen food on offer here certainly has the seal of approval on what could be the hottest day of the year.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Weekday
weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m, followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain, followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to the final section of headliners. We have the Daily Star now, Leo, for what I think is generally recognised as coke.
My ugly privilege keeps unwanted attention from men away. But enough about me. Let's look at this story. Now, this is a woman who has gone viral after she explained the concept of ugly privilege on TikTok, and lots of people have agreed with her, saying that being ignored by men is actually a positive thing.
Or not just agree with her that she's ugly.
yeah. I think they've said, I'm ugly too, and it's great. So they say it's great because men aren't flirting with them, they're not hitting on them, they're not trying to get their phone number, they're not asking her out. Men in real life mostly leave me alone. It's very rare that I get male attention in real life. So I'm surprised at that because, you know, there's a lot of desperate men out there. So she must be really ugly.
This is true, but then on the other hand, men have sort of become very cautious, haven't they?
Yeah.
And hesitant and so on. So I wonder whether that combines and whether if a woman is extraordinarily attractive and flirtatious looking, they kind of go, well, that's an obvious signal. OK, that's in
No,
play.
it's not.
No.
First of all, men are way more likely to hit on an uglier woman than they are to hit on a pretty
You think
woman.
so?
Yeah, and number two, this is a lie because all women want to be hit on. That's what they want. They're attention seekers. And they can't go, hey, look at me. They might put on a fancy dress or something that shows the bazooms. But this woman's like a little... But there
Do you remember there's a famous photograph? I saw it in a movie the other day. I can't remember what it was. It was like hanging in a restaurant in a scene. And... it was Midsummer, in fact, the one I mentioned earlier, early scene where they're in a diner. And it's Sophia Loren and another blonde actress. Can't remember, I don't think it was Claudia Cardinal, maybe. Anyway, she's very, very obvious. Sophia Loren's looking kind of sophisticated and the blonde has got her boobs like really hanging out.
Yeah.
And Sophia Loren is giving her this really filthy look. It's a very famous photograph.
Yes.
Because you're like, Sophia Loren is like one of the world's greatest, most beautiful, iconic stars.
Yeah.
But she's still caught up in this intersexual jealousy thing with this kind of trashy star. You know, I mean, it's baked in. And men are no better, obviously. You know.
Yes, we are. I don't hang about it.
And that's I'm exonerated.
You have to say that. So.
Lewis, Daily Mail have a story of Potemkin office staff that probably presages the coming war with the machines.
Yeah, this is the fantastic Daily Mail. High-end Aussie company advertises fake jobs to fill an office ahead of their boss coming in. And so this is basically a lie to make it seem like things are going better in Sydney, Australia. And I'll explain the story. Yeah. Because maybe the business wasn't going that well and they want to show to the boss we got people working and this is the new staff and he's paying them £150. But this, unfortunately, was posted in Reddit. And it didn't mention the company's name. No. It didn't mention anybody there. So this is a complete, not even a non-story. It's a non-story.
Yeah, vapor. I mean, it doesn't really make sense, does it, to pay people to kind of just come in and...
This is the entire public sector. This is Haringey Council right here.
Do you know David Graeber? Have you heard of him?
No.
He was, he's dead now, sadly. A very interesting guy, very intelligent anthropologist who applied his anthropology to sort of left-wing politics. He was one of the founders of Occupy Wall Street, which I thought had a point, Occupy Wall Street. It was interesting how Goldman Sachs got really behind LGBT issues. Occupy. But anyway, he wrote a book, which I don't think I can say the title of on there, BS Jobs, but bull jobs.
Yeah.
But what it was about the degree to which the private sector is full of these jobs as well. It was basically hitting back at the suggestion, which is fairly commonplace, that the public sector just inflates, you know, ceaselessly, regardless of whether jobs need to be done. He's like, believe me, banks do as well, corporations, oil companies, they're all full of it, you know.
You want to have people under you.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
I prefer to have one woman under me.
Independent now, Leo, and a story that reminds me of an Onion headline a few years back. internet down, huge surge in productivity.
Yeah, so Brazilians reveal what life is like without X or Twitter after Elon Musk's platform was banned there. So Brazil's shutdown of Elon Musk of X started on Saturday, and it's basically, I mean, the left-wing establishment there, this judge in particular, Justice Alexandre de Moraes, he's saying that there's all this disinformation and fake news and stuff spread on Twitter, but then the right-wing opposition are saying, no, you're trying to silence us. You applied to silence us, and Musk wouldn't allow it. So this is, being used politically to boost the left as they do all over the place.
And but Musk refused to play ball with him at all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's also interesting is Musk's other company, Starlink, provides a lot of internet to remote communities in the Amazon.
Yeah. Is that Clarice Starlink?
What's that?
Clarice
Starlink from Silence of the Lambs. Sorry.
Oh, right.
No,
I knew it was a joke. I didn't understand.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's a good joke. He's been away for a month. I like this. He's here.
That's the most random interruption. I'm sorry. Carry on.
So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to, punish their communities by
Starlink
shutting
is
off.
important because of the isolated communities.
Yeah. It's the only way they can get the internet.
No, and it'd be interesting also because presumably Brazil could benefit from what's happening in Argentina at the moment. Yeah, who's your favourite, right?
The question is, what is America doing? What is Joe Biden doing to say, you're not going to shut down one of our biggest companies? If you shut down our biggest companies, we're not going to send you money.
Yeah.
And we're sending them
Lewis,
money.
you have 30 seconds to talk about this story about older prisoners in the Times, mainly appalling for what it sees as older prisoners.
Yeah, well, it didn't say what the name was, but it said what the age was. Older prisoners should be put in secure homes to ease crowding. Basically, they're suggesting, this Lord Timpson, who's the guy
key cutter, yeah.
He's the key cutter, the most expensive shops ever.
I love Timpson. I love the smell.
Yeah, the smell smells great, but the price is unbelievable. Anyway, I'm in a care.
That's it. It's all over. Sadly, we'll have to keep shipping you off to a care home.
Why did we rush?
The show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Tuesday's front pages. We have the Daily Mail. Now Labour are running scared over winter fuel backlash. We have the Telegraph. Petrol cars rationed to meet eco targets. We have The Guardian. UK breaks with US to suspend 30 arms export licences to Israel. The Mirror, Kiev versus Oasis. iNews, UK restricts sale of weapons to Israel due to clear risk of breaking international law. And finally, the Daily Star, world's a bit too dodgy to go driving. We'll never find out what that was about. That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Leo Kirsten, Lewis Schaefer. I will be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Josh Howie and Carrie Marks. If you're watching at 5 a.m., stay tuned for breakfast. Otherwise...
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We've seen some big thunderstorms through the day today. Still a few rumbling on at the moment, but they are going to fade overnight. Tomorrow, a mix of sunshine and showers, and it is steadily turning fresher from the west. Quite warm and humid, though, in places at the moment. Our air is coming up from the south. This low pressure generating the heavy, thundery showers, steadily clearing from northeast Scotland and then the Northern Isles. But some storms rumbling on well into this evening over parts of the Midlands, Northern England and Wales. They should start to ease through the early hours. Still quite warm and humid and murky over central and eastern parts, but turning fresher and cooler further north and west. Temperatures in parts of Scotland well down into single figures. Generally a fine and a sunny start across Scotland tomorrow as well. Certainly a much brighter, drier day across the northeast. But in western Scotland, a line of cloud and rain is creeping back in. That's extending down into Northern Ireland, so a pretty glum start to proceedings tomorrow here. Quite a lot of mist and low clouds still across parts of England and Wales as well, and still a few showers here, still keeping going through the morning, so you may wake up to a bit of a wet start here. And as we go through the day, we could see some further heavy showers developing over parts of East Anglia and maybe the far southeast of England. Still hit and miss, but some heavy downpours possible, particularly in the early afternoon. Much of northern England, Wales, southwest England, though, drier and brighter compared to today. And we'll still have some outbreaks of rain coming into the far northwest. Turning cooler and fresher, we could still get into the 20s